My name is Lucy Green. I was 32 years old the moment I realized my family had never planned to take me on that vacation at all. The most shocking part wasn't even hearing my mother say the words, "We couldn't afford 2 tickets." It was standing in my parents' kitchen weeks later, holding my sister's phone in my shaking hands, staring at a confirmation email that proved they had paid for 2 seats all along, just not for me. Before I tell you how I got there, I need you to understand this. I wasn't snooping, I wasn't jealous, I wasn't angry yet. I was still the daughter who believed there had been a mistake, a budgeting error, a hard decision made with regret. I wanted so badly to believe that. But that belief shattered in less than 10 seconds. And if you've ever been the sibling who was always told to understand, to be mature, to not make things difficult, then please stay with me until the end of this story. And if any part of it feels familiar, share your experience in the comments. You're not as alone as you think. It started with a phone call on a Tuesday afternoon. I remember because I had just finished a double shift at the clinic, my feet aching, my brain foggy, my dinner plans canceled for the third time that week. I was sitting in my car, engine off, just breathing, when my mom's name lit up my screen. "Hi, Mom," I said, already bracing myself. She didn't waste time. "Lucy, we need to talk about the trip." The trip. The long-awaited family vacation to Maui, the one my parents had been talking about for years, the one they said was to celebrate my dad's early retirement and my mom's birthday, the one I quietly assumed included me, because why wouldn't it? "We've been going over the budget," she continued, her voice careful, rehearsed, "and with the prices going up, we can only afford 2 tickets." I laughed softly, thinking she was joking. 2 tickets? Mom, there are 4 of us. There was a pause, not a confused pause, a heavy one. "We thought it would be best if your sister went with us. Emily's been under a lot of stress lately." I felt something cold slide down my spine. "Okay," I said slowly. "And me?" "Oh, sweetheart," she sighed. "You understand, right? You're independent. You always land on your feet." That sentence, I've heard it my whole life. You're strong, you're capable, you don't need as much. It sounds like a compliment until you realize it's the excuse they use to give you less. "So you're saying I'm not coming," I said. "We just can't afford 2 tickets," she repeated, firmer now, as if saying it enough times would make it true. I stared at my steering wheel, knuckles white. "Did you already book them?" "Yes," she said quickly, too quickly. It all happened fast. I swallowed. "Okay." And that was it. No fight, no tears. I told her I understood. I told her to have a good time. I hung up and sat there in silence until the sky darkened and my phone buzzed with a text from Emily. "I'm so excited. I really needed this." I didn't reply. Growing up, Emily was always the one who needed things more. More attention, more protection, more forgiveness. She was 3 years younger than me, but somehow always smaller, always fragile in my parents' eyes. When she cried, the house shifted. When I cried, I was told to be brave. When she forgot her homework, my mom drove it to school. When I forgot mine, I learned the hard way. When she failed a class, it was the teacher's fault. When I failed, it was a lesson in responsibility. I learned early how to disappear without leaving, how to smile while being overlooked, how to clap for other people's milestones while quietly swallowing my own. So when they chose her for the vacation, I told myself it hurt, but it made sense. It always made sense. The photos started 3 days after they landed. Beach selfies, drinks with tiny umbrellas, my dad's arm around Emily's shoulders, my mom glowing in the sunset. Group shots where the space beside them felt louder than any caption. "Wish you were here," my mom commented under one of them. I stared at that sentence for a long time before closing the app. I tried to move on, I really did. I focused on work, on paying my rent, on going to the gym and cooking for one, and sleeping on my side of the bed. I told myself families don't always get things right. I told myself love wasn't measured in plane tickets. Then they came back. The house was full again. Laughter, souvenirs, stories told loudly and repeatedly as if volume could make up for exclusion. Emily talked about snorkeling, about the spa, about a man at the resort bar who couldn't believe she was single. I smiled, I nodded, I passed the salad. At some point, Emily asked if she could borrow my charger. Her phone was at 5%, she said. I told her to take mine. I wasn't expecting any calls. She left her phone on the kitchen counter while she went upstairs. It buzzed once, then again. I wasn't trying to look, I swear I wasn't, but the screen lit up and my eyes caught the words without permission. Your e-ticket confirmation, 2 passengers. My heart stuttered. I picked it up. My hands felt numb, like they didn't belong to me anymore. I opened the email, scrolled. 2 adult tickets, booked months ago, paid in full. Not last minute, not rushed, not a financial emergency. They had known, they had planned, they had chosen. Footsteps sounded behind me. I didn't turn around. "Lucy," my mom said, "what are you doing?" I looked at the screen again, just to be sure I wasn't imagining it, just to make sure my entire childhood hadn't condensed itself into one ugly lie. "I thought you said you couldn't afford 2 tickets," I said quietly. The silence that followed was louder than any argument we'd ever had. And that was the moment everything began to unravel. My mom didn't answer right away. She just stood there, staring at Emily's phone in my hands like it was a ticking bomb. Her mouth opened, then closed. I saw the calculation behind her eyes, the split second where she decided whether to tell the truth or protect the version of herself she preferred. "Lucy," she said finally, lowering her voice, "give me the phone." I didn't. My fingers tightened around it. "You said you couldn't afford 2 tickets," I repeated, slower this time. "This says 2 passengers, paid months ago." She sighed, the way she always did when I became inconvenient. "You're misunderstanding." "How?" My voice cracked, despite my effort to keep it steady. "Explain it to me." She glanced toward the stairs, then back at me. "This is not the time." "When is the time?" I asked, because it seems like the time is never. Emily came back into the kitchen then, humming, towel over her shoulder like she'd just stepped out of a shampoo commercial instead of the middle of a lie. She froze when she saw us. "What's going on?" she asked. Mom answered for her. "Lucy's upset." Upset, not confused, not hurt, upset as if this were an emotional malfunction instead of a factual contradiction. Emily's eyes flicked to the phone. "Why do you have my email open?" "Because it popped up," I said, "and because I was told something that isn't true." Emily frowned. "What are you talking about?" I turned the screen toward her. "This." She stared at it. For a moment, just a moment, I thought I saw guilt or fear, something human. Then her face hardened. "That's not what it looks like," she said quickly. I laughed, a sharp, broken sound. "It's a confirmation email, Emily. It looks exactly like what it is." Mom stepped between us. "Lucy, please, you're making this into something it's not." "Then tell me what it is," I said, "because I was told you couldn't afford 2 tickets, and now I'm holding proof that you could." We had to make a decision. There it was. Not we couldn't, we chose. "A decision," I echoed. "About me?" Emily rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, can you not do this right now?" That hurt more than I expected. "Do what?" "Make everything about you," she said. "This trip was supposed to be peaceful. Peaceful for them." "So I was excluded for peace?" I asked. "You weren't excluded," Mom said quickly. "You're reading too much into this." I felt something inside me snap, not loudly, but cleanly, like a rope finally giving way. I booked 2 tickets, I said. You didn't even consider me. That's not true, she insisted. We talked about it. When? Without me? She hesitated. Emily crossed her arms. Look, Lucy, you're always busy. You work all the time. You probably wouldn't have even enjoyed it. That sentence landed like a slap. You decided that for me? You're more independent, Mom added. Emily needs us more right now. I stared at them. 2 faces I'd spent my life trying to please. 2 people who had mastered the art of turning favoritism into responsibility. So you lied, I said. You told me it was about money so you wouldn't have to say the real reason. Mom's voice sharpened. We didn't lie, we simplified. I laughed again, but there were tears in my eyes now. You erased me. Silence stretched between us. My dad wasn't there. He never was when things got uncomfortable. He let my mom handle the emotional messes while he stayed conveniently neutral. Emily stepped closer to me. You're blowing this out of proportion. I looked at her, the sister I'd defended, covered for, loaned money to, babysat when my friends went out. Did you know? I asked quietly. Just long enough. My chest tightened. You knew, I whispered. She shrugged. I assumed you wouldn't want to come. The audacity of it stole my breath. You assumed? I repeated. So you didn't ask? She rolled her eyes again. Why are you acting like this is some huge betrayal? Because it was never just the vacation. It was every birthday where her gift was bigger, every emergency where my needs came second, every time I was told to understand while she was allowed to fall apart. I handed the phone back to her. I need some air. Mom followed me to the door. Lucy, don't leave like this. Like what? Awake? She reached for my arm. I stepped away. I spent years believing I was included. You let me believe that. That's not fair, she said sharply. No, what's not fair is pretending you didn't make a choice. I walked out before she could respond. The air outside felt cold and unreal. My hands were shaking so badly I had to sit on the front steps. A minute later, my phone buzzed. A text from Emily. You didn't have to embarrass Mom like that. I stared at the screen. The word embarrass burned. Then another message came through, this one from my dad. We'll talk later. This got out of hand. Out of hand, like a spilled drink, like a misunderstanding, like something accidental. I leaned my head back against the door and laughed until it turned into a sob. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every memory felt different now, rearranged, relabeled. Moments I'd brushed off suddenly made sense. The way plans were made without me, the decisions were announced, not discussed. Around midnight, my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't from my family. It was from an unknown number. If you want to know the truth about that trip, you should check Mom's email too. My heart dropped. I stared at the message, my pulse pounding in my ears. Because suddenly, I wasn't sure the vacation was the worst part of the betrayal. And something told me this story was about to get much darker. I didn't reply to the message right away. I just stared at my phone, the words unknown number hovering above that sentence like a warning sign I'd learned to ignore my entire life. My first instinct was to protect my parents, to assume it was spam or someone trying to stir drama or cruel coincidence, because even after everything, loyalty was still my reflex. But the message didn't feel random. If you want to know the truth about that trip, you should check Mom's email too. Not ask her, not talk to her. Check. My stomach twisted. I locked my phone, placed it face down on the nightstand, and lay back, staring at the ceiling. Sleep didn't come. Every few seconds, my mind replayed my mother's pause in the kitchen, Emily's hesitation, the way my dad had chosen the word out of hand instead of I'm sorry. By morning, the message had crawled under my skin. I showered, dressed, went to work like nothing had happened. I smiled at patients, I charted vitals, I laughed when a coworker made a joke about weekend plans. But my hands kept shaking, and every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped. At lunch, I finally replied, "Who is this?" The response came almost instantly. Someone who didn't like what they saw. I swallowed. What does that mean? 3 dots appeared, disappeared. Then, your mom didn't just book 2 tickets. She booked 3. 1 was refunded. The cafeteria noise faded into a dull roar. My ears rang. 3? Yes. My fingers hovered over the screen. Why are you telling me this? There was a longer pause this time. When the reply came, it was heavier. Because you deserve to know that you were invited until you weren't. I sat there, frozen, the words pressed down on my chest like a weight. Invited, then uninvited. Not because of money, not because of timing, but because someone decided I was optional. Who are you? I typed. I work with your mom, the message said. I helped book the trip. My breath caught. My mom worked part-time at a small accounting firm. She'd mentioned a younger coworker who was too sensitive once, someone who didn't know how families worked. I pushed my chair back and went outside, the autumn air sharp against my skin. Why was it refunded? I asked. The reply came slower now. Your sister asked her to change it. My knees went weak. I leaned against the brick wall, my head spinning. That doesn't make sense, I typed. She said she assumed I wouldn't want to come. Another pause. That's not what she told your mom. My chest burned. What did she say? For a moment, nothing happened. Then my phone buzzed again. She said you'd ruin the trip. I sank down onto the curb. She said you'd make everything tense, that you're judgmental, that you resent her, that if you came, your parents wouldn't relax. Tears blurred the screen. I wiped them away angrily, my mind racing through memories. Every time I'd bitten my tongue, every time I'd smoothed things over, every time I'd been told I was too serious. Your mom didn't argue, the message continued. She just asked if you'd be okay with it. Your sister said you'd understand, so your mom refunded your ticket and told me not to mention it. I felt sick. Why are you telling me this? I asked again. Because this person could destroy my family with a few screenshots, because they could be lying, because they could be seeking revenge. All of those thoughts screamed in my head at once. Because I watched her do it, they replied, and I couldn't stop thinking about how calm she was, like she'd done it before. My hands trembled. Do you have proof? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Yes. My phone vibrated with an incoming image, a screenshot, an email chain, my mother's work address at the top, the booking reference number I'd seen on Emily's phone, and below it, one line that made my chest cave in. Please refund the 3rd ticket. My eldest daughter won't be joining us after all. I stared at the words until they stopped looking real. My eldest daughter. Not my name, not Lucy, just a category in a role easily erased. I didn't remember driving home. I don't remember parking. I remember standing in my apartment, the screenshot open on my phone, my reflection faintly visible in the glass. 32 years old, still begging silently to be chosen. My phone rang. Mom. I didn't answer. She called again, then again. Finally, she texted. We need to talk. This has gone too far. Too far? The phrase echoed like a joke. I typed back slowly. Did you refund my ticket? The typing bubble appeared immediately, then vanished, then appeared again. Where are you getting this from? She wrote. I sent the screenshot. Minutes passed, long enough for my tea to go cold, long enough for my hands to stop shaking. Then my phone rang again. I answered this time. Her voice was tight. Lucy, you had no right to go digging. I didn't dig. You buried it. She exhaled sharply. We were trying to protect the family. From what? Me? She didn't answer. And in that silence, I realized a terrifying thing. This wasn't a mistake. This was a pattern, and I was finally seeing it clearly. Lucy, my mom said finally, her voice dropping into that careful tone she used when she thought she was being reasonable. You're taking this too personally. I laughed softly, not because anything was funny, but because the absurdity of that sentence felt almost poetic. Too personally, I repeated. You refunded my plane ticket. We didn't refund you, she said. We adjusted plans. I closed my eyes. Adjusted plans. Like I was a chair they moved out of the room so people could stretch their legs. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Why lie? She sighed. Because you wouldn't have handled it well. There it was, the justification, the quiet blame. So instead, you let me believe you couldn't afford it, I said. You let me feel guilty for even asking. That's not what we intended, she replied quickly. But that's what you did. She didn't deny it. I leaned back against my kitchen counter, my legs trembling. Did Dad know? Another pause, longer this time. Yes, she admitted. Something inside me cracked open. And he was okay with it? He trusted my judgment. I swallowed hard. Did Emily? Her voice sharpened. Leave your sister out of this. Why? I asked. Because this was her idea? Silence. That was answer enough. You chose her comfort over my presence. Again. Lucy, she said, exasperated now. Emily is sensitive. You've always been strong. I opened my eyes, anger finally cutting through the fog. Do you know why I'm strong? Because I had to be. Because there was never space for me to fall apart. That's not fair, she snapped. No, I said quietly. It's accurate. She changed tactics then. I could hear it in her voice, the pivot. You know how hard this year has been for us. We needed something peaceful. We needed one trip without tension. So I'm tension now. That's what I am to you? You can be intense, she said. You ask questions. You notice things. I almost smiled. Imagine being punished for awareness. So instead of talking to me, you erased me. That's not what happened, I replied. You booked my ticket and then you canceled it. She was quiet. I thought about the screenshot again. My eldest daughter won't be joining us after all. After all. As if I'd decided not to go. As if I'd bowed out gracefully. As if this had been my choice. Did you ever plan to tell me? I asked. I thought it would hurt less if you didn't know, she said. That's not kindness. That's control. Her breath caught. You're being dramatic. I felt something settle in my chest then, a strange calm. No, I said clearly. I'm being clear. She started to cry. I recognized the sound instantly. It was the same cry she used whenever she wanted the conversation to end. Soft, wounded, just fragile enough to shift the blame. I did the best I could. I'm your mother. And I'm your daughter, not a problem to manage. She sniffed. I don't know what you want from me. The truth rose to my lips, simple and devastating. I wanted honesty. I wanted to be considered. Well, what do you want now? She said sharply. I thought about that. About how a week ago I would have begged for an apology, for reassurance, for proof that I mattered. Now something else surfaced. I want space, I said. Her breathing hitched. Space? Yes. You're punishing us, she accused. I'm protecting myself, I said. She didn't like that. You're overreacting. This is tearing the family apart. No, I said. This is exposing it. The call ended shortly after. She said she needed time. I didn't argue. That night, Emily texted me. Mom is devastated. I hope you're happy. I stared at the message for a long time before replying. You asked her to refund my ticket. 3 dots appeared immediately. You weren't supposed to find out, she typed. That was all. No denial, no apology. Just irritation that the truth had surfaced. Why? I asked.
There was a pause. Then, "Because you judge me." I felt my chest tighten. "How?" "The way you look at me, like you think you're better." I shook my head, tears slipping down my cheeks. "I never thought that." "Maybe not," she replied, "but that's how it feels." I wanted to scream. Instead, I typed slowly, "So you decided I didn't deserve to come?" "I decided I deserved one thing without you watching," she wrote. "Without me watching, as if my presence along was a burden." "You didn't just take a vacation from me," I typed. "You took the truth." She didn't respond. The next morning, I woke up with swollen eyes and a headache that pulsed behind my temples. But beneath the exhaustion, something had shifted. For the first time, I wasn't trying to fix it. I didn't call my parents, I didn't apologize, I didn't explain myself. Instead, I scheduled a therapy appointment. It felt like betrayal at first, talking to a stranger about my family. But as the words poured out, I realized something. I had spent my life managing other people's emotions while neglecting my own. My therapist listened quietly. Then she said something that stayed with me. "You weren't excluded because of who you are," she said. "You were excluded because of the role they assigned you." That night, my dad finally came over. He stood awkwardly in my doorway, hands in his pockets. "I didn't think it would blow up like this," he said. "That's because it didn't blow up, it surfaced." He frowned. "Your mother is hurting." "So am I said. He nodded, but his eyes drifted away. "Families make mistakes." This wasn't a mistake, it was a choice. He didn't argue. As he left, I realized something else, something that made my stomach drop. If they could erase me from a vacation this easily, what else had they erased me from? And what else had they decided without ever telling me? That question followed me into the dark, heavy with implications I wasn't ready to face. Because somewhere beneath the lies, I could feel another truth waiting to be uncovered, and I had a sinking feeling it was going to hurt even more.
The first thing I noticed after I stopped reaching out was how quiet everything became. No check-in calls, no casual texts, no "just thinking of you" messages from my mom. The silence wasn't accidental, it was strategic. I had disrupted the balance, and this was the price. I was being reminded how easily I could disappear. For a few days, I told myself it was temporary, that everyone needed time to cool down, that eventually someone would come around and say the words I'd been waiting my whole life to hear. We were wrong. But the days stretched into a week, then 2, and in that quiet, memories I'd buried started rising to the surface, uninvited, insistent. Like the time my parents forgot to come to my college graduation dinner because Emily wasn't feeling well. Or the family reunion where my name was missing from the group chat until I showed up unexpectedly. Or the Christmas my mom asked me to wrap my own gifts because she'd run out of time. At the time, I'd laughed those things off. I'd told myself I was being dramatic. Now they lined up like evidence. The real fracture came the morning I got an email from my aunt. "Call me when you can," it read. No emojis, no pleasantries. I called her on my lunch break, sitting in my car with the engine running, the smell of old coffee filling the air. "Lucy," she said gently, "I didn't know if it was my place, but I think you should hear this from someone who cares about you." My chest tightened. "Hear what?" "There's talk in the family," she said, "about you." I laughed bitterly. "Of course there is." She hesitated. "Your mom told people you didn't want to go on the trip." The words hit me like cold water. She said, "What?" "She said you declined, that you're busy with work and didn't feel like a family vacation." My hands shook. "That's not true." "I know," my aunt said quickly. "That's why I'm calling." A sharp ache bloomed behind my eyes. Why would she say that? There was a pause. "Because it sounds better than saying you weren't invited." I pressed my forehead against the steering wheel. Even now, she was protecting the image, not me, the story. "They think you're mad at them for no reason," my aunt continued. "Some people think you're being ungrateful." Ungrateful for being excluded. The word tasted bitter. "Who?" I asked. She listed names: cousins I'd grown up with, an uncle who'd once told me I was the sensible one, people who'd watched the dynamic for years and never questioned it. "I don't know what to do," I whispered. "You don't have to do anything," she said. "I just wanted you to know the truth." After we hung up, I sat there for a long time, my mind racing. The betrayal was evolving, no longer just private, but public. I wasn't just left out, I was being rewritten. That evening, I checked my mom's social media. A new post had gone up. "So grateful for family time. Sometimes plans change, but love remains." The comments were full of hearts and praise. "Beautiful family. So happy you all got this time together." Someone even wrote, "Wish Lucy could have come." My mom replied, "Next time." Next time. The lie rolled on effortlessly. I closed the app, my hands trembling. For years, I'd absorbed these small cuts quietly. But something about being misrepresented, about having my truth taken from me, lit a fire I couldn't put out. The next day, I requested copies of old emails from my mom's work account. Not illegally, not secretly. She had once added me as an emergency contact years ago, back when she trusted me completely. I still had access to the backup notifications. I didn't know what I was looking for, just confirmation, pattern, proof that this wasn't new. What I found made my stomach drop. There were emails from years ago. Bookings, cancellations, adjustments, my name appearing and then disappearing. A hotel reservation changed from 4 guests to 3. A concert ticket transferred. A cruise inquiry marked pending and then voided. Trips I never knew I'd almost been part of. Trips I'd been erased from before I could even feel excluded. My vision blurred as I scrolled. This wasn't about Emily alone. This was something my parents had been doing quietly, consistently, deciding when I fit and when I didn't. A notification popped up. A message request from someone I hadn't spoken to in years. "Hey Lucy, I don't know if you remember me. This might sound weird, but I think I owe you an apology." My heart skipped. It was Mark, Emily's ex-boyfriend. "I found out something recently," his message continued, "and it's been eating at me. I think you deserve to know." I stared at the screen, my pulse racing. If what I already knew hurt this much, I wasn't sure I was ready for what came next. But I typed back anyway. "What do you know?" And as the typing dots appeared, I had a sinking feeling that the truth was about to cut deeper than ever before. Mark didn't reply right away. Minutes passed, then nearly an hour. I kept checking my phone like it might vanish if I looked away. When the message finally came through, my stomach drops before I even read it. "Can I call you? This isn't something I want to put in writing." I hesitated. Mark had always been polite when he dated Emily, quiet, observant, the kind of guy who noticed things but rarely commented. We were never close, but we weren't strangers either. Still, whatever he was about to say had already crawled under my skin. "Call me," I typed. The phone rang almost immediately. "Lucy," he said softly, like he wasn't sure I'd pick up. "Thank you for answering." "What is this about?" I asked, bracing myself. He exhaled. "I didn't know how to tell you back then, and honestly, I didn't understand it fully until recently." "Tell me what?" I said. There was a pause. "Your family talked about you when you weren't around. A lot." My jaw tightened. "That's not new." "I know," he said, "but this was different." I waited. "When we were together, your mom and Emily used to joke about you. Not cruel jokes, just dismissive ones." "What kind?" I asked. about how you're too serious, how you don't need much, how you'll be fine on your own. I closed my eyes. I had heard those words all my life. But then, he said, there were the decisions. What decisions? He hesitated. Plans would change suddenly. Dinner reservations, holiday trips, weekend getaways. And whenever I asked why you weren't coming, Emily would say you were busy or that you didn't want to. My chest tightened. Was that true? No, he said quietly, because sometimes I heard the real reason. I held my breath. Which was? That you made her uncomfortable. The words settled heavily between us. She said you made her feel judged just by existing, he went on, like you were a mirror she didn't want to look into. I swallowed. And my parents? They agreed, he said, not out loud, but they didn't push back. I felt something inside me sink. Did they ever defend me? There was a long pause. No, he said. The word echoed in my head. Why are you telling me this now? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Because I ran into your mom last week. She told me about the vacation drama, about how hurt Emily was that you made it a thing. I scoffed. Of course she did. And I realized something, he said. You were always the one being managed, smoothed over, removed when things got inconvenient. My throat burned. Why didn't you say anything before? I thought it wasn't my place, he admitted, and I was afraid of what it would cost me. That honesty stung, but I appreciated it. There's more, he said. About the trip. My heart skipped. What more? The original plan wasn't just Maui, he said. Your parents talked about making it a family tradition, annual trips, rotating destinations. I laughed bitterly. Without me? At first with you, he said. But Emily didn't like that idea. My hands clenched. Why? Because she said you'd eventually take over, that everything would start revolving around you. I shook my head, tears spilling freely now. I never wanted that. I know, he said gently, but she's always competed with you, even when you weren't competing back. I sat in silence, absorbing the weight of his words. All those times I'd tried to shrink myself to make her comfortable, all the apologies I'd offered for things I hadn't done. Did you ever see anything concrete, something I could point to? He inhaled sharply. Yes. My heart pounded. What? There was a group chat, he said, between your mom, Emily, and your dad. They talked about you there. My breath caught. What did they say? I didn't see everything, he said, but I saw enough. Mark, I said, my voice shaking, what did they say? They called you the variable. The word sliced through me. The variable, he repeated, as in the one thing that could change the mood, the one thing that needed to be controlled. I pressed my hand to my mouth, a sob breaking free. They weren't trying to hurt you, he added quickly. They just prioritized comfort. At my expense, I said. Yes. I thanked him quietly and ended the call. My apartment felt too small, the walls closing in. I paced, my thoughts spiraling. I thought of every time I'd been told I was loved, every hug, every birthday card, every "we're proud of you." And I wondered how much of it had been real and how much of it had been maintenance. Later that night, my mom sent a message to the family group chat. Let's all sit down and talk. This has gotten out of hand. Out of hand again. I stared at the message, then typed back, I'll come, but I won't be silent. No one replied. The meeting was set for Sunday at my parents' house, the place where I'd learned to swallow my feelings whole. As I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, one thought looped over and over in my mind. They didn't just leave me out. They designed a family that worked better without me. And on Sunday, I was finally going to ask them to explain why. I almost didn't go. Sunday morning came with a heaviness in my chest that made it hard to breathe. I stood in front of my closet longer than usual, staring at clothes that suddenly felt like costumes. Too soft and I'd look weak. too sharp and I'd look aggressive. In the end, I chose something simple. Jeans, a neutral sweater, my hair pulled back. I wanted nothing to distract from the truth. The drive to my parents' house felt longer than it ever had. Every red light gave me another chance to turn around. But I didn't. I kept going, hands tight on the steering wheel, repeating a quiet promise to myself. Say it clearly. Don't shrink. Their house looks the same. White siding, neatly trimmed hedges, the kind of place that always made other people say, "You're so lucky." I parked in the driveway and sat there for a moment, listening to my own heartbeat. When I walked in, everyone was already there. My mom sat on the couch, hands folded, eyes red like she'd been crying. My dad stood near the window, arms crossed, staring outside as if this had nothing to do with him. Emily sat in the armchair, scrolling on her phone, her leg bouncing. No one smiled. "Hi," I said. "Lucy," my mom replied softly, standing up. "Thank you for coming." I nodded and sat down across from them. The air felt thick, like before a storm. "We need to clear the air," my mom began. "This whole situation has gotten very hurtful." I almost laughed at the phrasing. Hurtful to whom? "I agree," I said. "That's why I'm here." She glanced at my dad. He cleared his throat. "We're a family," he said. "We don't want this to tear us apart." I looked at him. "Then tell the truth." Emily scoffed quietly but didn't look up. My mom's face drained of color. "Who told you?" "That doesn't matter," I replied. "What matters is that you lied." "We simplified," she said weakly. "No," I said, "you rewrote the story." My dad shifted uncomfortably. "Lucy, let's not—" "I'm not finished," I said, surprising even myself with how steady my voice was. I looked at Emily. "You told Mom I'd ruin the trip." Her jaw tightened. "I said you make things tense." "Do you hear yourself?" I asked. "Do you know what it feels like to hear that your presence is a problem?" She crossed her arms. "I didn't say you were a problem. I said you said I was the reason you couldn't relax. That's the same thing." My mom's voice trembled. "Emily was struggling." "So was I. You just didn't notice." My dad finally turned from the window. "You've always been so independent," he said. "We thought you'd understand." "I understand now, just not in the way you hoped." My mom wiped at her eyes. "We didn't think it would go this far." "It went far the moment you decided I didn't deserve a choice, the moment you canceled my ticket without telling me." Emily stood up suddenly. "I didn't ask for you to be cut out of the family." "No," I said quietly. "You asked for me to be removed when I was inconvenient." She froze. I took another breath, my heart pounding. "I know about the emails, the other trips, the reservations that changed." My mom looked at me like she'd been slapped. "You went through my emails?" "They were already there, years of them." My dad's face hardened. "That's an invasion of privacy. So is deciding my life without me." Silence fell over the room, heavy, exposing. "I need to know something. Was there ever a time you actually wanted me there, or was I always just optional?" My mom opened her mouth, then closed it. Her eyes darted to Emily, to my dad. No one answered. And in that silence, I got the answer I'd been afraid of all along. The silence stretched so long it became unbearable. I waited, gave them time, gave them space to say something, anything that would soften the blow of that unanswered question. But no one spoke. My mother's lips trembled. My father stared at the floor. Emily looked away like she'd already checked out of the conversation. And that was it. That was the moment I stopped hoping. "I think that answers it," I said quietly, standing up. "Lucy, wait," my mom said, rising from the couch. "Please." I turned to face her. For the first time, I really looked at her. Not as my mother, not as the woman who raised me, but as a person who had made a series of choices. "I don't hate you," I said. "I need you to know that." She nodded quickly, relief flickering across her face. "But I can't keep pretending this didn't happen, or that it won't happen again. Emily scoffed. So what, you're cutting us off now? I met her gaze. No, I'm setting boundaries. She rolled her eyes. Same thing. No, I said. Boundaries are about what I'll accept. Cutting you off would be about punishing you. This isn't punishment, it's protection. My dad finally spoke. Families don't do this. Healthy ones do, I replied. My mom's voice broke. What do you want from us? I thought about the years I'd spent wanting apologies, acknowledgement, fairness, wanting them to choose me. I want honesty, I said, and accountability. And if you can't give me that, then I need distance. Emily laughed humorlessly. You're acting like we abused you. I didn't flinch. Neglect leaves marks too. You just can't see them. That shut her up. I'm going to step back, I said, for a while. No family events, no group chats. I need time to heal. My mom reached for me. I stepped back. I'll reach out when I'm ready, I added. She nodded, tears streaming now. I never meant to make you feel unwanted. I believe that, I said, honestly, but intent doesn't erase impact. I walked to the door. My dad followed. I'm sorry, he said quietly, finally meeting my eyes. It wasn't enough, but it was something. Thank you, I replied, and I meant it. Outside, the air felt lighter, not because I was happy, but because I wasn't carrying their denial anymore. The weeks that followed were hard. I cried more than I expected. I questioned myself. I replayed conversations, wondering if I'd been too harsh. Therapy helped. So did journaling. So did long walks where I let myself feel angry without apologizing for it. I muted the family group chat. I declined invitations. I stopped explaining. And slowly, something shifted. I slept better. I laughed more. I stopped flinching when my phone buzzed. I started choosing myself in small ways, booking a solo weekend trip, saying no without guilt, letting silence exist without rushing to fill it. One evening, months later, I sat on my balcony watching the sun dip below the buildings. My phone buzzed. A message from my mom. I'm starting therapy. I see things differently now. I'm sorry I didn't protect you. I stared at the screen, tears welling in my eyes, not of relief, but of release. I replied, thank you for saying that. I need time, but I appreciate the honesty. It wasn't reconciliation. It was a beginning. I don't know what our family will look like in the future. I don't know if trust can be fully rebuilt. But I know this. I am no longer the variable. I am not optional. I am worthy of being chosen by others and by myself. And if you've ever been the one who was quietly left out, rewritten, or made to feel like your presence was a burden, please know this. You are not too much. You were simply in a space that refused to hold you. Have you ever experienced betrayal like this from the people closest to you? Share your story in the comments. You're not alone.